One day I walked out into my hot tub room and there was a cat out there, and we didn't know who she belonged to, and she just kind of climbed up in everybody's lap, started getting really comfy, very, very sweet, sweet. And then we found out she was pregnant. So, right towards the end of her pregnancy, I brought her into the house because I didn't want her to have the kittens outside in the heat because it was really, really hot out there that summer. And so, brought her in the house. She had her kittens, and that's where Little Man came from. He was one of her kittens. Like within 1 or 2 days of her having the kittens, we realized there was something wrong with her. So we took her to the vet, and she ended up having to have surgery. Well, we had to take the kittens with her because they were brand new. They realized that he was really, really small.
Me and my sister noticed that milk was coming out of the kitten's nose. And we'd pried his mouth open and noticed there was a giant hole in his palate. We had contacted a vet and we were like, hey, we think our kitten has a cleft palate. It's 3 days old. It hasn't eaten anything. We were told by a different vet to bottle feed and the milk's just coming out of his nose. That vet told us to try and take a picture of it and email it to them. And when we did, they had us bring him into the vet so they can do a proper assessment on him. And they came to the conclusion that yes, he did have a cleft palate. There were times where he ended up getting aspiration pneumonia because we accidentally put the tube not in his stomach but into his lung and didn't realize it because it went as far down as it was supposed to. And we felt horrible and we kept taking him to the vet. And it was just a giant mess. But we ended up doing that too many times, and by the time he was big enough to get his permanent tube, before then he would just chew through the tubing and the milk would come out his nose again because it wasn't going into his stomach. And he just kept getting aspiration pneumonia, so they decided to put in the permanent tube in his neck. That way he couldn't bite holes in it, and we knew it was going into his stomach. He had ripped those out multiple times. We ended up putting a sock. We'd cut the toe off a sock, cut little holes in the sides for those little arms. We made him a sweater, multiple sweaters, to try and keep the tube in place on his neck. And he was just the cutest little turd. I had to try and learn to feed him by myself. That was the hardest thing because he was a squirmer and he liked to bite. You wrap him in his burrito-ness and he would just start chewing. And then he would start coughing. Like the tube wasn't going in the right spot, so you'd have to pull the tube back out and retry, all while he's chewing on the tube.
I wouldn't change anything at all. He, just like one of my own kids, he's one of my babies. He loves on me, he gives me kisses, he sleeps with me, he gives me hugs. I mean, he is just the sweetest baby in the whole world. I would never change anything of it. Oh my gosh, we took him to the vet to have one of his feeding tubes replaced. We had to replace the feeding tube, I think, 4 or 5 times. And when he was on anesthesia, he was so funny. He was so lovable. You could not give him enough attention, and he would just roll and roll and roll and try to get as much attention as he possibly could. And it was just so funny to watch him. It just cracked me up. He did get a couple of infections. Took him to the vet. I swear, the vet still to this day, you take that cat to the vet and they know exactly who he is, and they cannot believe how big he's gotten. It wasn't his fault. He was born with a cleft palate. You know, if one of your kids was born with a cleft palate, do you just say, oh, sorry, you don't get to eat anymore? No, I kind of felt like the same. People would always ask me, why do you even bother? What kind of life is this kitten going to have? What kind of, it's probably not going to survive anyway. You might as well just put it to sleep. Well, that was not going to happen. You don't put your kid to sleep because it has a problem. You fix it. If you can't fix it, you do whatever you can to extend its life for as much as you can. And so that's what we did. 3 years later, he's thriving, he's strong, he's healthy, he's big, he's in perfect health. He is my Butterball. Come here, Butterball. Oh, you're my sweet little boy. And this is him today. He's 3 years old now. And as you can see, perfectly healthy. Has no problems. We still have to take him to the vet every now and then to have his palate checked, but so far so good. He may in the future end up having to have surgery again, but as of right now, the vet just wants him to be a kitten, just happy, and just be himself, and that's what he is. A baby boy.